Good morning, you super sexy bunch of crazy storage animals, you. And yes, I made that up on the hockey. Right, okay, so today I did a podcast, I did a newsletter this morning regarding what I've learned from storage and what I would do differently. Because previously I did, I think it was yesterday's email, I did my revenue for the past 5 or 6 years in a big site, Willoughby, and I stressed that we lost money in the first 3 years, and the reason we lost money is not because of not actual losing money on the balance sheet on the accounts. We lost money because of cash flow, because of repayments of loans. So I want to stress that we didn't lose money in a accounting position. We lost money because of cash flow. So we actually lost money on the physical accounts. We made money, but we lost money on the actual cash flow because we had a massive, massive debt to service. So not only did we have a rent and rates and have very, very few customers, but we also had the repayments of the loans to pay as well. So some few people reached out and asked me, Dean, what are your takeaways and what would you do differently? How would you act if you did it again? And I thought about it all day yesterday. And then I wrote 4 things I'd do differently if I started again on today's newsletter. However, there's only one major thing that I'd do differently, but obviously it doesn't sound very good if I just say one thing I'd do differently, so I had to make up 4. And so, right, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to run through this really quick. I'm going to run through it with you. And so here's what I put on the email. So yeah, after yesterday's email, losing money for 3 years, I was asked many, many questions surrounding what I would do differently. Firstly, I want to clarify, on paper, the business was making money, but because of the loans, it was losing cash flow each and every single month. And it really was. And how did I get from losing cash flow to actually inputting more money in the business? And I was very, very lucky because I used to have a podcast called The Betting Guy. And on The Betting Guy, we used to have 60,000 downloads a month. So I had over 1.2 million listeners a year. So it was quite a sizable chunk of people listening to that. And so I thought, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And I look back at all the emails I've been getting, and people was asking me the same similar question. And so I produced a little bit of software that helped on that. And I charged £27 a month for the software. It cost me, it cost me 15 grand to do the software, $15,000. And I charged £27 a monthly recurring revenue. Straight away, I got 300 customers. 300 customers paying £27 a month. It was incredible. I was like, holy shit. I started out on money problems. And within the first 3 months, I think I made 6 figures. And so I put all that 6 figures into my storage. Without that, I don't know what I'd have done. I'd have had to beg, steal, and borrow from people, friends and family. But the problem is that I didn't understand cash flow. So we'll go into number 1. So number 1, making sure I understood my cash flow. Understanding this would have made my life so much easier. Understatement of the year. You need to know what revenue per square foot you are getting and how much square foot you will increase per month. Once you know these 2 figures, you can predict your revenue. And it's only a prediction, I understand. I normally do 3 predictions. I do best case, worst case, and middle case. And I always do my cash flows now based on worst case. So if I'd have understood that, it'd have been so much different for me, so much easier. Because I'm embarrassed saying this. All I looked at was, I looked at how much capital expense I'd need, so how much I'd need for the shop fit. And I completely forgot that I would have expenses higher than the revenue when I first opened. Didn't even think about it. I was just so excited. And that was only 6 years ago, 7 years ago nearly. Yeah, it was 7 years. Well, a bit more than 7 years ago when was actually doing it. And I was like, and all of a sudden when we opened, I was like, well, where's my cash going? I knew how much the capital was going to be. And I didn't think that, I knew how much capital expenses were going to be. I'd never actually thought, hang about a minute, my expenses are up here, my revenue's up here, so there's a deficit every single month until 2 years in. So wait a second, you telling me I've got a deficit for 2 years? Well, I didn't account for that. Holy fuggly. I'm in trouble. And yeah, luckily I had the Mr. Self Storage. I had the Betting Guy, and we was doing over £30,000 a year in sponsorships as well. So that massively helped. Right, so that's number 1, and really that is the big one. I won't be a second. Shake a swig of tea. The second one is I bang this drum so much, but it really helped me. Get a coach, a mentor, ask for their advice. Sometimes we don't see what is right in front of us. We're in the weeds and we're focused so much on the business that we need somebody who can take a step back, look at that aerial view and tell us where to go. I can't underestimate this enough. And I got an email yesterday asking from somebody if I'd mentor them. Unfortunately, at the minute, I've got too much things on. So I feel like, and I need to say this every single time that I mention mentorship. There's loads of good people out there. Dave Davies massively helped me when I was starting up, and still helps me now. And so I would 100% reach out to Dave Davies and just get him to come in, see your business from a different angle, because two people don't see and think the same. So they'll always have different ideas to you. And that's what I'd have done straight away. I didn't use Dave Davies until 2 or 3 years in, until when cash flow was okay. Why? Because I didn't think I could afford it. And so when I'm losing cash flow, I'm thinking, well, I can't afford to do that. But in reality, you can't afford not to. It's crazy to think the other way because it is investment. It's not a cost, but I didn't think of it like that. And number 3, I was a little bit wary to do because this has cost me my Bradford site. I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I wanted it too cheap and I negotiated too cheaply. However, I do think ultimately you have to be a cheeky so-and-so. So you need to explain the business model to the landlord. You need to ask for extra rent-free periods. Explain the concept of self-storage, how the business model works. Ask for half-price rent for a period of time as well. Ask your shop fitters, container suppliers for extended credit terms. I remember I sat Gareth down from Active Supply and Design and went through all my numbers, my business plans, and said, listen, I need some help, buddy, with phase 2. Because obviously, after phase 1, I realized that it took us like 6 phases to do Willoughby to fit it all out. And I realized that after phase 1, I was deep in the shit and thought, crap. So I'm not going to do that with phase 2. So phase 2, I sat Gareth down and said, listen, mate, I need some help. And this is before I had the podcast, so I had no welly. He's got welly. Yes, I had no influence at all. Not that I've got much influence now, but I do think that people are more likely to give you a better deal because of a podcast, which is nice. And so I sat down, I met him in the services and showed him all my work and I said, listen, I need some extra credit terms. He said, I can't. I said, Gareth, I can't. I need to work with somebody who can. In the end, Gareth came back and give us some extended credit terms, which was awesome and massively helped me out. So you need to be cheeky. You don't need to be afraid for asking for help because everybody in the industry is in exactly the same position, apart from the big boys. And even the big boys have to get the money from somewhere. Right. So I put one thing is for sure. If you don't ask, you don't get. You have to protect your cash at all costs. So show up, be cheeky. And I put one more for fun here. And this is something I only thought about when I was writing it. Keep your investors, bank managers, private lenders, etc., informed of your progress. Never, ever go quiet on them and only contact them when you want more money. For me, that's a massive no-no. I make sure that every investor gets a hamper at Christmas. I'm in regular contact with one of my investors now because he's really the only investor we use at the minute. And I'm in regular contact with him. And I'm always let him know how we're doing, what's happening, what's the industry like. And he's probably not interested, but at least he knows I'm on the ball, I'm on it. And so, yeah, I would make sure that you always keep your bank managers, etc., informed. And up here, ultimately, for me, the biggest mistake I made was not projecting my cash flow, not understanding my cash flow, not projecting my cash flow. So don't make the same mistake as me because honestly, I don't think it ever really got massively close to losing the business, but it sure as hell could have been, it could have been slippery bum time. And it was just all the time constantly thinking about cash flow, and it was upsetting. It was horrible. It was hard. And especially after coming off a failed restaurant as well and having another one where I'm thinking, fuck, I ain't got the money to pay the bills. I remember having a bill from Janet, from Active Supply and Design for £60,000 and having no money. Literally no money, having 14 days to get that money. I was like, how the fuck am I going to do that? But guess what? I did it. Thanks to The Betting Guy, the podcast, which was great and a great idea. And one day I'll go into what the hell went wrong with that software because it came crumbling down. And yeah, it was probably good because I wasn't in the industry I wanted to be in, but it came crumbling down. Ultimately, the software, it too many users, and I was actually away in Las Vegas speaking at the World Conference when it all went to pot. Speaking at the World Conference, and obviously I won't check my emails because I was away in Vegas, and because I had a separate email for the betting guy, and the software stopped working. Mahesh, my one developer was on holiday, never takes holiday, was on holiday for 7 days. So the software didn't work for 7 days. And that was the beginning of the end, because bettors, gamblers, they're angry people. And I got a lot of threats. Anyway, so I realized that, do you know what? It's great money, but I couldn't carry on like this. I knew that it was the wrong industry for me, so I focused on self-storage. All right, guys, love you, appreciate you, and I'll see you on Friday when we've got a tippy toppy episode. That wasn't planned either, as you can tell. All right, love you, appreciate you, bye.